The world didn't expect the words that came next. Not because they were loud, not because they were aggressive, but because they were calm, measured, and unsettling in the quietest way. They didn't arrive with flashing headlines or emergency meetings broadcast on every screen. They appeared subtly, through statements, briefings, diplomatic language that most people usually scroll past without a second thought. But this time, people didn't scroll. A message surfaced from a powerful nation, one that rarely speaks without intention, one known for choosing its words carefully, for thinking not in months or years, but in decades. And suddenly, people everywhere began sharing it. Analysts replayed it, commentators paused mid-sentence, social media filled with whispers, screenshots, and a single repeating question. Did you hear what they just said about the Philippines? At first glance, it didn't sound like a threat. It didn't sound like praise either. It sounded like a warning. A warning not shouted, but carefully placed. A sentence designed not to provoke panic, but to trigger attention. Do not ignore the Philippines. And just like that, the world paused. Because when a giant tells you not to overlook something small, it means that something small is no longer small at all. It means the balance has shifted. It means assumptions are being questioned. It means plans are being revised. So why would a global powerhouse, one known for thinking several moves ahead, feel the need to say this? Why would they draw attention to an archipelago that, for decades, many outside the region underestimated, simplified, or misunderstood? And more importantly, what do they see in the Philippines that others still fail to notice? Before we go any further, let me ask you to stay with me until the very end of this story. Because this is not just about geopolitics. This is not just about power, or ships, or borders drawn on maps. This is about identity, this is about history, and this is about a nation quietly stepping into a role the world never fully prepared for. If this story resonates with you, if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, your support, whether through a like, a share, or simply watching until the end, helps more than you realize. Maraming salamat. Now let's begin. The Philippines has always been described in fragments. A beautiful place, a resilient people, a country with potential, a destination, a workforce, a former colony with a complicated past. But rarely, very rarely, has it been described as dangerous. Not dangerous in violence, not dangerous in chaos, but dangerous in influence. Yet that is exactly what has changed. To understand why, we have to look beyond headlines and slogans, beyond social media arguments and sound bites. We have to look deeper, into geography, into history, and into timing. Because sometimes, where you stand matters more than how big you are. Look at a map. Not the political one filled with borders and flags, but the logistical one. The kind planners, generals, and economists study late at night. The Philippines sits at a crossroads the modern world depends on. An invisible highway of ocean stretches across the region, one where massive volumes of global trade move every single day. Energy supplies, food shipments, raw materials, consumer goods, data cables beneath the sea, military fleets above it. Much of it passes through waters that brush past Philippine territory. Remove the Philippines from that map, and the entire system doesn't just slow down. It stutters, supply chains bend, response times change, power projection becomes complicated. This isn't opinion, this is logistics. And logistics shape the world far more than speeches ever could. This is why tensions didn't appear overnight. For decades, quiet pressure has been building in the surrounding seas. Pressure that rarely made global headlines, but was deeply felt on the ground. Fishermen harassed while doing what their families had done for generations. Boats chased away from waters they had always known as home. Reefs damaged, nets torn. Livelihoods threatened. What once felt distant, something discussed by officials in air-conditioned rooms, suddenly became personal. For ordinary Filipinos, it wasn't about international law or geopolitical theory. It was about food on the table. It was about dignity. It was about being told, quietly but firmly, that the space you depended on was no longer yours. And yet, for a long time, the Philippines was spoken about as if it had no choice, as if it would always bend, as if it would always adjust, as if history had already assigned it a permanent role: adapt, endure, and move on. That assumption is exactly what no longer holds. Something changed, and it didn't happen with an explosion. It didn't happen with a dramatic announcement. It happened slowly, almost invisibly. In the past few years, the Philippines began to transform, not just economically, but strategically. It became something it hadn't fully been before: a bridge. A connector between East and West, between the Pacific and Southeast Asia, between superpowers that cooperate when they must and compete whenever they can. And bridges by their nature are never neutral. They are watched, they are measured, they are protected or contested, sometimes openly, often quietly. This is where the message came from, not from fear, from calculation. Because from the perspective of global planners, the Philippines is no longer on the side. It is in the center. And when you are in the center, every decision you make sends ripples far beyond your borders. Military presence is one layer of this story. For decades, foreign forces have understood the strategic value of Philippine territory. From earlier bases established during the Cold War to modern cooperative defense agreements, the logic has remained consistent. Control the corridor and you influence the region. Every airstrip matters, every port matters, every radar installation matters. From one perspective, these are defensive measures. From another, they are listening posts, eyes and ears placed carefully along one of the most sensitive regions on the planet. And when those eyes and ears face you, you pay attention. But focusing only on the military side misses the deeper battle. The quieter one, the more decisive one. The battle for economic gravity. Quietly, steadily, the Philippine economy has been expanding. Not explosively, not recklessly, but consistently. Before the pandemic disrupted global systems, the country recorded growth rates that placed it among the fastest rising economies in its region. Beneath the noise of politics and daily struggle, something important was happening. Industries were forming, infrastructure was expanding, cities were modernizing, and a young English-speaking workforce was preparing, often without realizing it, to step onto the global stage. Many people didn't feel it yet. Growth is like that. When you live inside it, change feels slow, incremental, almost invisible. But step back a few years, and the difference becomes undeniable. Investors noticed, planners noticed, strategists noticed, and when one major power notices growth, others rush to make sure they're not left behind. Because influence lost is influence rarely regained. From the outside, it becomes clear why ignoring the Philippines would be a mistake. Not because the country is perfect, not because it has no problems, but because potential, once activated, changes everything. This is where the warning becomes clearer. If one major power steps back, others step forward. Economic partnerships shift, trade routes deepen, technology transfers accelerate, cultural ties strengthen, soft power flows where attention goes. And in today's world, power isn't measured only in missiles or fleets. It's measured in who shapes narratives, who educates future leaders, who provides opportunity, who becomes familiar and trusted. The Philippines sits at the heart of that contest. And this brings us to the most misunderstood part of the story: choice. For much of its history, the Philippines was acted upon, colonized, occupied, directed. Decisions were often made elsewhere, by people who never walked its streets or spoke its languages. But today, something fundamentally different is happening. The country is choosing who to partner with, choosing which offers to accept and which to decline. Choosing long-term independence over short-term relief. There were moments when tempting deals were placed on the table. Massive infrastructure projects, easy funding, fast solutions to long-standing problems. But hidden beneath generosity can lie dependence. And this time, the Philippines hesitated. Not because help is bad, but because freedom is fragile. Debt can build quietly, obligations can tighten slowly. And one day, without realizing it, sovereignty becomes negotiable. Saying no wasn't dramatic. There were no speeches, no celebrations, but it was powerful. Because it signaled something the world hadn't fully processed yet. The Philippines is no longer desperate. And a country that isn't desperate is a country that must be taken seriously. That moment shifted perceptions, allies stepped closer, partnerships strengthened, support arrived, not as charity but as cooperation. It showed that the Philippines doesn't stand alone, not anymore. This is why the message from abroad carried weight. It wasn't about admiration. It wasn't about flattery. It was about acknowledgement, a recognition that the Philippines now holds leverage. And leverage, when combined with position, becomes influence. Influence reshapes regions. Suddenly, the archipelago was no longer a background character in global affairs. It was part of the plot, a place where decisions could tilt balances, where alliances could redefine futures, where silence or action could echo across continents. This is why that simple sentence mattered. Do not ignore the Philippines, because ignoring it means misreading the future. A future where Southeast Asia becomes a central arena of global competition. A future where young populations drive innovation. A future where maritime routes define economic survival. In that future, the Philippines isn't peripheral, it's pivotal. History has given the country a rare moment, not to dominate, not to threaten, but to choose wisely, to remain grounded while standing tall, to protect sovereignty without isolating itself, to engage the world without surrendering identity. This is not easy. It requires discipline, vision, unity, and above all, memory. Because the Philippines knows what happens when others decide your fate for you. It has lived that story, it remembers, which is why today feels different. This time the pen is in Filipino hands. The next chapter isn't written yet. And that uncertainty, that open possibility is exactly why the world is watching. So when a powerful nation speaks carefully about a country once underestimated, listen closely. Not just to the words, but to what they reveal. The Philippines has arrived, not loudly, not arrogantly, but undeniably. And the most important question now isn't what others will do. It's what the Philippines will choose to become. Because in this moment, standing at the crossroads of history, geography, and power, the nation is no longer a piece on the board. It is a player, and players shape outcomes. As someone who has walked its streets, seen its cities rising, felt the warmth and resilience of its people, this transformation doesn't feel theoretical. It feels real. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it simply happens, until one day, the world is forced to acknowledge it. The Philippines is at that day, and whatever comes next will not just affect one nation. It will ripple outward, across seas, across alliances, across history itself. The world has been warned, not with fear, but with truth. And the truth is simple. Ignore the Philippines, and you ignore the future unfolding right in front of you. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. The story isn't over. It's just beginning.